Hi, my name is Casey, and today we're going to work on how to hit a two-handed backhand dink in pickleball. I'm hoping you're here after watching the two-handed driving video. That would be like the first part of the series, and now we're going to work on two-handed dink. Some skills from the last video are going to be transferable, and then some things we're going to make minor adjustments to. Alright, so when you're dinking, you're going to use a lot of the same fundamentals from the last video. So really the swing path, right? You're going to start low, you're going to go high, you're going to try to brush the ball, get some topspin, same as you would do on a backhand drive. But now we're just going to kind of balance it out because the distance between where you're dinking from to the other kitchen line is so much shorter than when you're driving. You're going to take off some power and you're going to add some spin. So that's the minor adjustment that we're doing. Now you're going to use your left hand to brush on the ball to generate topspin. And the topspin is what's going to allow you to still swing through the ball freely, but it's going to dip inside the kitchen to prevent your opponent from taking in the air and hitting the volley. So basically what you want to do with your left hand is you want to hit, if the ball's a clock, you want to hit from 7 o'clock to 1 o'clock with your paddle. So you're going to go here, you're going to make contact, you're going to try to make contact on the top of your paddle so that you have the whole entire surface of your paddle to brush the ball on. So if you make contact here, you're going to slowly go over the ball like that. So from 7 o'clock, you're going to roll over the top until about 1 o'clock.
So here I am emphasizing tip 1, which is replacing power with topspin by using my left hand to brush from low to high on the ball and making contact from 7 o'clock to 1 o'clock. This allows me to use my full swing, but then have the ball dip in the kitchen.
The next thing you're going to see when I'm hitting backhand dinks with Byron is that unlike the drive where I'm always stepping in with my right foot, you're going to have to be able to do an open stance or stepping sideways with your left foot. So now you're going to load the ball with your left foot here, and then you're going to do the same technique, just you're not sideways anymore. So you're going to be facing the net, here's my kitchen line, and you're dinking. If you get pulled out wide, there's a couple reasons why you can't step in. Number one, if it's really short and you step in like this, your opponent can easily drive the ball at you while you're still in the kitchen, and you're not going to have time, then you automatically lose a point. Another reason why you want to do it is if you get pulled wide like this, you might not have time to step in, or if the ball bounces really deep, like it bounces here, you don't have time to back up all the way to here to get sideways. So what you're going to do is you're going to use your left foot to load and then dink like this. This way also you're not giving up as much court if your opponent hits a good dink to your left foot. So instead of going here, giving up all this court here, and now you're 3 feet, 2 feet behind the kitchen line, you can go open stance, load with your back foot, get your left foot behind where the ball's going to bounce, and do the same swing, and you didn't give up any space. So that's what we're going to work on in the next drill month, thinking kitchen to kitchen with Byron, going back into backhand.
So in these clips, we're going to focus on tip 2, which is loading on our left foot. So notice right away when I'm loading on this open stance dink that all my weight is going to be on my left foot. There's nothing really on my right foot, and that allows me to stay close to the line and not give up too much space away from the kitchen. Also notice here the ball's going to bounce short. I have to step in just to get to the ball, but I get right behind the kitchen line right away. I don't linger in the kitchen. On the deep ball, I'm able to use my left foot to get behind the ball and then get right back to the kitchen line every time.
So once you get really comfortable using your open stance backhand to do a two-handed dink, and then sometimes using the closed stance, depending on where the ball's going to bounce, let's talk about where we're aiming. So basically when I'm doing backhand to backhand dink, it's really tempting to just try to hit the best angle as possible. But what you want to avoid is opening up around the post shot, which we'll talk about a little more later. But basically you want to aim for about here. So this is going to be your opponent's left foot. And when they're hitting, if let's say they're standing here to dink, if you get it here, this is a really tricky shot to hit because it's right by their foot, they have to go low, and they might step back. You really want to push your opponent back because if they're hitting a dink from here, it's a good chance it's going to be a floater and you can attack the next ball, or your partner can attack the next ball. So you're going to put your cone there, and you're going to be aiming for your partner's left foot, right in front of it. So I'm going to give Byron a cone, and he's going to do the same thing.
Okay, so we're going to watch tip number 3, aiming for your opponent's left foot in action. Notice where we put our cones. There's some margin, so we're not putting it right in the corner of the kitchen. We're putting it in so that we have margin for error, and also that's going to be where our opponent's left foot is. Notice that when we're hitting these dinks, if I get one that's really close to the cone, my opponent's not going to be able to get a good dink off of it. So watch right here. This ball's going to bounce right next to the cone, and then Byron's not able to make the dink bounce in front of me. Instead, I can take it in the air. So let's watch this again in slow motion. I'm going to hit a dink right by this cone, and notice that my opponent is not going to be able to set up really well behind the ball. They're not going to be able to make a good decision or just get it to dip right in front of me. Instead, right about here, I'm going to realize that this dink is actually going to float, and I'm going to switch what I'm going to do to take it as a volley in the air. So it's just a good example of how an effective dink can get you an opportunity to take an aggressive volley. Okay, and here's a second example of that. So the same thing, I get an effective dink and I'm able to take a forehand volley out of the air. So watch where the ball bounces, right next to the cone. Byron is not able to make the ball dip in front of me, so instead I'll take it as a forehand volley down the line. And here's our example of what not to do, and it's hitting these crazy angles because it opens up the around the post shot. So it's really tempting to go for these angles because it looks really flashy, but notice where the ball bounces and then where I'm able to make contact with the ball. So basically any dink that bounces in the court and then travels far off the court is going to open up this angle that allows your opponent to run down the ball and then hit it around the post, which can be a really offensive shot because there's no net in the way of where they're making contact in the court. So notice right here where I'm making contact because of the dink that was given to me, and then I'm able to go right around the post and hit a really offensive down the line backhand. And then lastly here, once you get comfortable, you can start experimenting with placement and then using your backhand as a weapon like I do right here.
All right, notice in the last few that I did work in a nice angle topspin two-handed backhand. So once you get really comfortable with the open stance two-handed backhand, stepping in on a couple of the dinks with your two-handed backhand, you can really try to experiment and see if you can do two-handed angle to kind of win the point or at least get your opponent stretched out wide and open up the middle of the court. That's something that comes with being more comfortable. But yeah, I hope that you can practice all the dinking, and thanks for watching. Oh no. It's gonna be me getting mad at myself on the video, on the outtake.